Hello and welcome to our BRM Facebook page, and welcome also to our second live Q&A session with me, Howard Smith. Now this time I put out a quick question on our Facebook page and also on our forum, RM Web, just asking if you've got any modelling questions that you'd like answered or anything to do with model railways in general. And a few of you have got back to me some quite interesting questions actually. So I'm going to fire off a few of these, but just before I do, I'd like to talk about a little show which is airing on Channel 5 this evening at 8 p.m. Now a lot of you will have perhaps heard about this. There's a bit of a buzz going on at RM Web at the moment. It's all about the Great Model Railway Challenge. And what happens is 6 teams will compete to produce the most interesting model railway, and they'll be judged accordingly by a panel of experts and some modelers that you'll find on YouTube as well. Now the big thing about this show is that it's very rare to see model railways as a hobby broadcast on the television. I know we've had a few programmes, different spins each time, but it's nice to see that the hobby's getting some spotlight. So I'd like you to tune in at 8 p.m. this evening on Channel 5, and if you're not around you can tune in an hour later on Channel 5 Plus One, which exists, and watch it. Let us know, most importantly, what you think about the show, and get commenting on our Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you. You can follow it and just tag in with the Great Model Railway Challenge hashtag at the end of your posts and comment on RM Web, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on what you, the viewer, thinks of the programme. Anyway, before we get on to that, I'd like to talk about a few interviews and some exclusive content that we've got coming up in BRM and for our social media feeds with some of the participants of the programme. So we've a few people lined up. If there's any questions that you'd like to ask the participants of that show, fire away. We can help and try and answer them for you. Don't forget it's broadcast over 6 weeks, so there's plenty of time yet to get involved with the conversation, but head on over to RM Web, our forum, to get started. So looking at the Facebook page, we've got a few questions. So I'm going to fire off with the first. It's from Darren Moffat, and he asks, with advancements in battery technology and other miniaturization of electronics for mobile phones, do you see the hobby moving to battery-powered remote control in the smaller scales? Okay. He says particularly N scale, because I know that it's already available for 00, because that would allow us to do block detection using electricity like the real railways. Battery technology. Okay, battery technology at the moment, it's a bit difficult because it's miniaturizing those batteries to make sure that they last long enough. The problem with N gauge is that you've already got the constraints of things like a decoder. Your motor for a start takes up quite a bit of room, and you've still got to fit things like gears in, and people will want cab detail. You've also got to configure a little space for the antenna so that there's no problems with interference from the motor, and that it's sufficiently far away from things. So at the moment in N gauge I can't see that happening. The problem also, if you look towards the automotive sector and the way battery technology is being developed for cars, it's still quite a way away. So I can't see it happening in N gauge, Darren, for the moment. 00 gauge, certainly. O gauge, of course, we know it exists. There's enough room in there. But if you start to think about N gauge with things like speakers and finding room for things like that, it's just really, really compact in there. So no, unfortunately not. The next question comes from Matt Wickham. He says, Howard, as the hobby develops, what do you see as the next big step in terms of development of models? For example, the introduction of high detail. What could the next big thing we might see be? Okay, so the next big thing, as it happens, has landed on my desk this month. And who'd have thought it? Working point rodding. This is from a company called DCC Concepts. This is essentially, they've managed to miniaturize all the workings of point rodding that you would see along the side the tracks in the eras of steam, right up to 80s, 90s, and still in use occasionally today. So you've got the basic pack there, which is DCR-WRP. This is now, as of this week, with all DCC Concepts retailers, and a very timely release actually, because it coincides with the publication of this book from the 2mm Scale Association on point rodding, prototype and planning notes for modelers. You'll find everything you need to know in there about point rodding, where it goes, how they'd be located on your tracks, things like that. So very interesting read, especially if you're in 2mm, but all the principles apply to all scales, so check that out. And beyond the basic pack, DCC Concepts is also offering these add-on packs of different cranks. So you've got extra pins. I mean, even the pins are gold plated to prevent corrosion. They've really gone to town on this sort of thing. But it's designed for pico points, a standard humble pico point, and you can drive all of your point rodding from the point. So it's not designed to work the other way round. So you're not going to move your point from your signal box or your lever frame or whatever. This is the other way round. This works from your point motor. So interesting stuff there. Check it out. In terms of the next big thing, other than that, it all depends really on what manufacturers deem to see will be a viable project. So I know there's a lot of, well, it works on a supply and demand basis really. You're not going to develop something that's only going to appeal to a few people. So it's a big commitment from manufacturers, but I think certainly more detail we'll see, that's guaranteed. On almost a monthly basis, everybody's trying to, improve the level of detail. And at the moment, it's interesting because I was having an interview with Rapido. Rapido Trains, so the company that we all know, the Canadian manufacturer that's doing a lot of exclusive commissions, and they believe that injection moulding tooling hasn't reached the capacity of what is possible on in terms of details. So there will definitely be more detail available. But I mean, it all depends really on space as well inside models. We are now reaching a limit where the amount of things that can be incorporated into the inside of a model is reaching capacity. There's not an awful lot of wiggle room. People want a speaker in there, and if you make those smaller, then you compromise on the quality of sound. People want smoother running, so you make a larger motor that's got 5 poles and and a finer mechanism. It takes more room, but you also want weight, and weight comes with more metal. So metal, you need to add that to the model as well. So it's a balancing act really, and it's not easy for manufacturers, but yes, why not have a working coach with doors that open using hot wire? The sky's the limit. It all depends on people committing, and with more detail comes higher costs. So bit of a balancing act. Let's have a look now. The next question comes from Daniel Hilbrandt. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. He says, model railways can be rife with problems, complications and fault finding. Very true. But when building layouts and kits, but what's your greatest achievement in the model railway world? Right, that's an interesting one, Daniel. I mean, there's various projects that I've been involved with on the magazine, but what not many people know is that I lived in France for 12 years. And whilst I was out in France, I took part in a club called TGV 086. Now the 086 bit comes from the number of a département, or the region in France, hence why we had 086 after the club name. But the TGV side of things is pretty evident. It's to do with the French high-speed train. SNCF, funnily enough, it told them they had to have that 086 at the end because otherwise it would be a conflict of property rights, that sort of thing. But whilst we were out there, it was a club that was based in an underground basement, and it was about 100 foot or so of space in length, perhaps a little bit more, including the bar area. And there was quite a few projects that they were working on at the time, but they'd never really tackled the scale of O gauge. So we set them a challenge, and that was to build an O gauge layout for the 50th anniversary at the time of the Gauge O Guild at Guildex, and that would be in 2006. So, time flies. But we set the task of making a model of a real place, which the tracks have since been lifted a long time ago. It's called La Roche-Posay, and there was a large viaduct there. Nice station, very, very rural, literally 2 tracks passing, and then it was onto single branch lines. And it was a very interesting model to work on really. I laid all the track, built the kits, the CNL point kits. It was all custom made to order. There was nothing really out of the packet that was used on that model, and it won the gold medal at the show in 2006 for best layout at the show. Continental, of course, because there was also British outline there, but it was about 50-50 mix that year because it was sort of joined in with a Cercle du Zero, which is the French Gauge O Guild equivalent, and also Spor O, Germans, and it was a good melting pot of models to see at the show. But yes, it was quite interesting to be involved with that. The achievement though comes in that at the show, because we were building this model on the underground of the large block of flats that was in the town at the time. That's where the club was based. It was quite a humid environment. And of course, what happens in a humid environment is invariably your wood will expand, and of course you're laying all your track as predicted. You take it across to Gildex, where there's quite a warm hall. Things start to dry out and your track expands at the same time. So suddenly you've got short circuits here, there and everywhere. And I was frantically going around with a slitting disc trying to open up rail cuts and make sure that everything wasn't shorting out. So bit frantic at the time, but we got there in the end and it ran really, really smoothly. But the model was featured in a few magazines, Local Review, Le Train, Continental Modeler and Model Railroader. So if you want to check out more on that model, have a look at those. This next question comes from David Jones. He says, Howard, you get to see and write a lot about model railway items, but I'm wondering what got you into this hobby and what drives your enthusiasm? That's a good question too. So the thing that I like about the hobby most is that it's a very creative hobby. Everybody's trying to create something fresh, something new and something different. And it's not always easy because there's a lot of it's already been done before scenarios now, the further you progress along the line. But it never ceases to amaze me how people still manage to make something that you think, oh, actually, why didn't I think of that? The person who got me into the hobby, though, has to be my dad. It happens a lot in this hobby. My dad was into trains for a long time and sort of gave up the hobby in his teens and came back to it when he retired. I was taken to my first model railway show at the age of 6 months. Yes, it was the Wigan Show 1989 and he was exhibiting his layout Lost at Call. But I helped him out on a few of his other creations. So there was Tomwood in O gauge, Lost at Call in O gauge again, then Hayside in O gauge, which was serialised in British Railway Modelling, and then Horton Bridge in gauge 1, which was quite a mammoth to transport around the circuit. Weighed a lot. They all really weighed a lot. It's something that you tend to learn quite a bit when you're building layouts, to make them lighter every time. So who knows what the next project might be. Next question comes from Edward Farms. He says, given the cost of manufacturing rising in China, where do you see production moving to next? Right, well this is quite timely actually, because in our latest issue of the magazine, I interviewed Rapido's Jason Schron. You'll see all about it in this issue, which is on sale today as a digital edition. You can download it from pocketmags.com/BRM. And in it, I basically talked to Jason on his company and where it's going in China. So we've got a few words from Jason on his factory, quick tour, and how things work. And it's true that prices have risen approximately in the Guangdong province, which is where he was getting his models made in China, by approximately 400% to 500% in the last 14 years, which is, when you think about it, quite a lot. However, having relocated the factory outside those areas which have specialised in models for the past 30 years, it's really China that's developed the high detail quality ready to run model that we see today. He's managed to get costs back down to a more reasonable expectation, and also for people as well that are prepared to pay at a certain price point and not beyond that. So it works at the moment for China. I can't see it moving out of China, I have to admit, for the next 15 years or so, unless there's a significant shift. People talk sometimes about India, might go to India, but when you think about it, the specialism and everybody who knows that sort of side of things, the industry, it's China where it's really being developed. So I can see it staying in China for a long while yet, if not indefinitely. Although I applaud people who are bringing back manufacturing to this country. We've seen quite a few things from Dapple being made over here, so it's proof that, you know, it can be done at a price point. So there you go. Right. We've got the next question from Carl Andrews. He asks, Howard, what's the strangest thing you've seen adapted to be used on a model railway? Okay, well, I'm not sure if it's suitable for a Facebook Live audience, but let's just say the device was used to vibrate ballast into the wagons. So make of that what you will. But yes, we've seen lots of different things used on model railways. It's surprising, actually, how people manage to adapt things to make them suitable for a model railway. I mean, take for example the Channel 5 television series, which is airing tonight at 8 p.m. They've been asked, each team has been asked to incorporate a specific item into their model railway, which you wouldn't think at all is related to a model railway. So we've got people incorporating bottles of water, we've got people incorporating a tube of toothpaste, for instance. So yes, all sorts. How it turns out though, you'll have to find out this evening. Right, have we got any more questions? I think we're pretty much there actually on the question front, other than to say that all those who have participated in the Q&A will get a chance to win this. It's a new train pack from Hornby. It's called the 15 Guinea Special. Now this represents the last British steam hauled train to be operated under British Railways on August the 11th, 1968. So a commemorable day there, and of course celebrates its anniversary this year. We've got, interestingly enough, because it's called 1968, you've got the transition there going across to BR Blue. You get two BR Blue Mark 1s with the Commonwealth bogies there, and a maroon of BR Mark 1. Yes, worth £300. So a winner will be announced very shortly. In fact, I think I might be able to announce the winner now. It is Matt Wickham. So congratulations, Matt. I'll get this in the post to you very shortly, as soon as I've finished the photography for it for this issue of the magazine. All remains to be seen is download the latest issue of BRM, which is our biggest ever, with 332 pages. It's a mammoth magazine, and we've also included 2 free copies at the back of it of Engineering in Miniature and Narrow Gauge World. We've got a splendid selection of projects. You can probably see there from my contents what's going on, but if you're not entirely sure what's going on from that view, because I'm not sure how well this webcam is working, you can check out our thread on RM Web and comment below on your thoughts on the issue. So download away. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and if you've got any specific things that you'd like to see coming up in BRM, please comment away, and we'd love to hear from you and your projects, of course. So there you go, that's the roundup for this Friday Q&A session. I hope it was of use, and I am aware that last time we did film it on a little bit of a potato of a camera. This one's coming live to you from a laptop again, so we are filming this in high definition. You can't see it on screen, but behind us is a camera, and I've been using a tie mic, so you'll be able to see this in high definition on YouTube as soon as we finish the recording. So until next time for our next Q&A, farewell, keep on modelling, and we'd love to see your projects.